Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Hello there, Brandon.
Whoa. Hey, Angie.
Just living the life. Living the engaging life.
Ooh, it's the title of the podcast.
It is. And today, we're going to be talking about sharing and kind of that fine line that comes between sharing, oversharing, and really it all plays into transparency and authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree are good things.
I would have, yep.
Okay. Versus oversharing and tactlessness.
Is there a line?
Sometimes it can be very fine, and sometimes people, just stampede all over it.
Yeah.
So we've got that. We're also going to be talking about circumspection, not circumcision. Not circumcision.
I was not ready for that one.
Circumspection, different thing. And intelligence versus stonewalling and being closed off. So again, they can be very fine lines, and a lot plays into these things. But as we just talked about in the last podcast, perception is reality. So even if you think you're being cautious, and if another person sees that you're stonewalling,
That's what
they
it
think
is.
you're a stonewaller.
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
so that's what we're going to talk about today.
I'm excited because I'm an oversharer.
There's reasons behind that.
And going to, I'm a one-upper, but not on purpose. I'm a nice one. No, that's not how.
You're trying to find a connection with somebody, and it comes across as switching the focus to you.
Yeah. Go. And I'm sure no one is surprised that I'm trying to switch focus.
Very, very common.
I'm getting better.
And it actually comes from a good place.
Thank you.
Because it is. I want to find a connection with you. I want to find something that we share in common. But it doesn't come across that way to the other person.
No. Or my wife. She doesn't see it that way either.
Oh, yeah. Well,
she's just
like, actually say to each other.
Oh, yeah, she called me. Wait, well, you guys will say one.
Oh, yeah.
She'll give me the look of like, let's not talk about yourself all the time. Or like, you bulldozed that one, right?
We'll do the one-upper, or Todd's really good at this. We're not talking about you.
Ooh, and you know what? I'm going to ask this. Does that bother you at all when he says it?
does.
Really?
You know what?
Doesn't bother me at all, because I know.
Because most of the time we're talking about Todd.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just like,
okay.
You know what? Sometimes it is about me. Damn it.
See, when Liz says that to me, it's very much me. So I'm never offended. I'm like, you're right, thank you.
And sometimes I will do that. Other times I'm just like,
And you know how often you see me be quiet?
Really?
Yeah, but when I get called out by Liz like that, then I have the 2 minutes of shutdown. I'm just like, if you don't have anything contribute to the conversation, you don't say anything. And then I realize I never have anything to contribute to the conversation.
So we got one-upper over here. We'll be talking about oversharing later. But first I want to talk about transparency, because it's a word that gets thrown around a lot. What does it really mean? I think transparency means showing your true motives.
Okay.
I think that's a lot of it. What are you doing, for what reasons, what's behind it, and why.
Mm-hmm.
It's also being open and honest about how it could be about how you feel about your spouse going out every weekend without you. Because there is something, if you aren't transparent about, hey, this kind of bothers you, I wish, A, you would stay home more with the family, or B, you would take me out with you. Because you know what happens most of the time when you're not transparent about your feelings?
You blow.
You're either going to blow or it's going to come out in icky.
Okay, yes, that's right. It just all boils, and then one day.
One or the other. Either it's going to blow up one day, or you start doing this like, guess you had fun last night. Especially if hey, I'm going out with my friends. Is that okay? Yeah. And then the icky starts coming out.
Yes.
So being transparent about how you feel. And this was on a personal level. It was hard for me because I came from a very, very, very disturbing relationship where it was all control, passive aggressiveness, say something but they don't really mean it.
Okay.
It was icky.
Right.
Came into a relationship that was not like that, but it's hard.
Oh yeah.
To put the new lens on that, and so it took me a long time for when I'm going out with my friends tonight. Is that okay? Yeah, of course. Knowing that he really meant Yeah, of course.
Yep.
And the only reason it just took time to realize there is no blowback here. There is no, he really doesn't care. In fact, he kind of likes it because then he can be by
It's
himself.
time, yeah. No.
Do his own thing. But it did take, so there's a lot of things that go behind that. But transparency is say how you feel about things because you're not going to be able to hide how you really feel anyway.
Well, and I always believe take the punch on the front side, not on the back, because it hurts a lot less on the front side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be transparent. I know this isn't going to go well, but usually long run, that's the big advantage. Where if and I do this, I'm like, oh gosh, I know this isn't going to be a good conversation, and then I put it off, and then I put it off, and then I'll bring it up, and Liz will be like, oh okay.
Oh yeah, you have the thought in your head.
Yes, what do you mean? Everything's fine. Or then it blows up, and I have not brought it up, and she like hears it from someone else, and,
right.
And it's, yep, transparency. It's easier on the front side.
Yep. So then in a business setting, so this is a big one I see in businesses where a leader is maybe hiring somebody or firing somebody or changing and not letting the rest of the team know what's going on and why. Because their perception is going to be whatever they create if you don't tell them.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to think, oh my God, they fired somebody, the company's going down, I'm going to lose my job, I better start looking. Or it can be they just hired somebody, but I didn't get my raise. Why, they must not value me. Or if you don't, and granted, you can overshare as a boss. You shouldn't tell your employees every single, hey, here's our financials and we're in the red.
We're doing real bad, guys.
Yeah, not that. But, hey, we're making a hire. I know you didn't get your raise this month, but she is in a different department and we really need help there. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a raise.
Yep.
Just explain it because they will come up with a narrative if you don't give them one.
Yeah.
And it's likely not accurate.
What is it? Hear it from the horse's mouth?
Yeah,
directly
from the horse's mouth.
Directly from the horse's mouth. And that's always the best way.
Yeah. Have you ever smelled a horse's breath?
Nope.
Gross, a lot of horses. Anyway.
I've been around horses, but I can't say I've ever smelt their breath.
You've never.
Well, I mean,
you've never heard it from the horse's mouth, then.
I haven't.
No. Have you looked a gift horse in the mouth?
I have.
Okay. Moving on. So, when you're as a boss or even as a spouse, when you're being transparent and you're telling them what's going on, it builds a bond, and it makes them feel included. So this another thing with Todd and I that we've had to work on. Is if he doesn't tell me things, and it's not that he's not being transparent, he's a dude, he forgets, it makes me feel left out. And it makes me feel we don't have a strong bond, especially if somebody else knows it before I do.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. And it's taken me a long time to, hey, give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not trying to leave you out. You don't have a bad relationship. He was just randomly around this person and it came out or whatever reason. And then with your team, too, you want your team to feel part of the overall business. And if you're not sharing with them, this is why we did this, or here's what happened, here's the story behind it, they're not going to feel like they're important. Mm-hmm. They're not going to feel like they're valued.
What if when it gets on the grander scale? And I'm talking like a U.S. bank, right? You got tons of, and when I was at U.S. Bank, we had the 3 things from the CEO. So he actually communicated. I felt communicated very, very well. But I feel there were things, there were all these layoffs when mortgages kind of switched. Mm-hmm. And some of it was not announced. And then just all of a sudden, all these people were laid off. So is it, when you talk about the team and transparency, is it a little more difficult as you get bigger?
I definitely think so. And I think that's kind of where the trickle-down effect happens.
Yeah.
If you're entry level, you cannot expect the CEO of a large company to explain to you why you didn't get your raise or whatever. But you can expect your manager to have those conversations with you.
And so that's where the
higher CEO needs to communicate with the first level of management, who then needs to communicate with the second level of management. And the structure needs to be there.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, got it.
Okay, so that's transparency. Let's move on to authenticity.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So what is authenticity? What do you think it is?
So authenticity, being authentic is being the person that you are when being the same person you are when you're in a crowd versus when no one is around you.
Okay, I like that.
Thank you.
I like that.
Because that's how I try to define it.
Character.
Okay. Well, I guess I would very much say your character plays huge into how authentic you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's saying what you mean what you say. Mm. It's being who you really are and letting others see that. I think a lot of us, especially people who have maybe some self-esteem issues or don't really like who they are, which unfortunately there's a lot of people like that. They put on airs because they don't think they will be liked for their authentic self, which is sad because a lot of the times once you do get to know that authentic, people don't want the mask.
Yeah.
They don't want the mask. And it's knowing your values and standing behind them.
Ooh, I know my values.
That's the big thing about authenticity because, and again, you bring in the social media to this, you bring in the, social perceptions to this, and it is tough. Number one, you got to know your values, which there are plenty of people out there who have no idea.
That's true.
What they really stand for. They really don't. They're kind of blown by the wind. Oh, I'm told to think this, I'm going to think this. Oh, and my friend thinks this, so I must think this. Without having that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I believe in. Doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it. Doesn't mean you have to talk about it all the time. Doesn't mean you need to judge others for not having the same values.
Oh.
But it is having that, I value my time with my family above all else. I know that. So I'm going to turn down things with my friends. I'm going to turn down things at work if it impedes on that value of spending time with my family. Am I going to fail sometimes? Absolutely. But I hope that always comes across that this is, and you know who I wanted to come across to the most? My family.
Oh, sure.
Which
they may not see it because
they may not.
You're making the commitment to them, so you're always there. It's the other people that got the disappointment that it really stands out for them.
Right.
But, and we talked about perception in the last episode, but now your perception that they have of you, it may be, oh, she was canceled. But the reality they understand, but it's for the family. And I feel your value would show that. Like if you really stand to it, your value would show.
And I do say things like that. I say, I get invited out for a Monday. I say, Monday is one of the only times that all of our kids are there and I can cook dinner for them, so I reserve that for the family. And in that case, number one, I'm telling the truth.
Right.
Second, it's a value showing. It's not an emergency. Oh my God, my kid has to blah, blah, blah. They're not going to ask me to do things on Monday anymore, which is good.
Right.
And then the last thing is, if they have a problem with that, that's their problem. And maybe we shouldn't be friends, call it whatever.
Yeah. I'm quick to jump on that. And I used to be sad about it, but now I'm like, no, this is right. If you have a problem with my situation, that's your problem, not mine. And I don't need to be your friend then.
Right.
I've got plenty of friends. Yeah. You're my friend, right?
I'm your friend.
See, I got you.
You always got me. So that's authenticity. But transparency and authenticity, I almost tried to combine them.
Transicity?
Transticity.
Transicity.
I don't know what I was going to say. It can go too far. And people think, hey, I'm just being authentic. Hey, I'm just being transparent. When really they're just being a jerk.
Yes. Yep.
So have you seen the new movie, The Glass Onion?
No, but you're like the fifth person to talk about it.
It's really good. I actually liked it better than Knives Out. Knives Out got a ton of publicity. And once
this one did.
Finally came around to watching it, it was so hyped up that I was kind of like, wah, wah. It was a good movie.
Okay.
But it was way too hyped up. So then this one comes out, and we really liked it. But there is a quote in it from, I can't remember the main detective, Benoit. It's James Bond.
Okay, got it.
I can't remember the actor's name, but he's a fantastic actor because he's completely, he's kind of a dork.
That's awesome.
He's got like a southern accent. But yeah.
Isn't he British?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's great. But Kate Hudson's character is kind of a la la la, former model, and she's just kind of a doof and says whatever, and she's just like, I speak the truth. If people don't like it, then, and he says, it's a dangerous thing to mistake speaking without thought for speaking the truth.
Ooh.
And I was like, turned to Todd. I was like, rewind that. Oh my God, that is so profound because people do that. People who have no tact, who have no EQ, emotional intelligence, who maybe are a little socially awkward, they use that as a front. You say something that hurts people's feelings. I was just talking the truth. I was just speaking the truth. They can't handle it. Or cracking jokes that are hurting other people's feelings or whatever they're doing. They hide behind, I'm just being authentic. I'm speaking the truth. Most people can't do this.
Oh, that's funny. Yep.
And really what it is being thoughtless. And so I'm a writer and a reader. So words have always carried a lot of weight with me. And there are so many people that don't. It's like words matter. And it's now been 4 years of marriage, been together 7 years. Todd finally gets it. Words really matter to me because he is the type, he just says whatever the hell, and sometimes it's mean. Sometimes it's mean. And it's like, I'm going to remember that forever.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great memory. I still remember some of the mean things he says to me when we were first dating.
It's not great.
I try not to let it affect, but it still comes back every once in a while. Once it's out there, words matter to a greater degree to some people than others, granted. Right. But they matter. And if you're not putting thought into your words, it does not make you authentic.
I like that.
It makes you tactless. I love that. So sometimes people do need to hear the hard truths. I am not saying that you always have to say things that make people feel good and all of this. There are times, obviously, when people need to hear some hard stuff that they're not going to love. Mm-hmm. And that is part of being authentic. It's part of being transparent. But there's a difference between sitting somebody down and telling them with empathy and compassion that they need to get some help or that they've hurt you or whatever it is, and just throwing off words because I'm speaking the truth and
right.
I'm just being a jerk.
Right.
There is a difference. I'm not saying it's always an easy line to identify.
Well, I think too, so I'm a Band-Aid guy. Right, like if I've got news for you, it's going to be easiest if I just rip off the Band-Aid and then we can talk about it. And I'll even set the table. Tell you the truth, when I left Pixel Fire, I told Dan, I'm like, okay, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and then we can just chat about it.
Yeah. I'm
leaving. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And I feel if you set the table, right, this is how, and I know it's not always about me, but this is how this is going to work best for me. But then also that allows me to accept your response much better.
Right.
Where if I think, I know how you need to hear this, and I sugarcoat it, and I do this, and you're just like, you could have just done this, and we would have been fine. So I feel setting the expectation of how this is going to go, and if you think you're being authentic, but you're just being a jerk, and you're just straightforward, you're not considering the other person. You don't have what is compassion, you said, right? Compassion and empathy. You're just doing it the way you want to do it, and however they feel is their problem.
Right. And that's a lack of emotional intelligence.
Correct. Yeah. And in this setting, because you can do that, but in this setting, that's where, no, let's have a little compassion, because this is going to be hard for both of us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And also knowing you don't need to talk about what's on your mind at all times. Every thought that runs through there, everybody doesn't need to know it.
I disagree. No,
and
you're right.
I mean, think about, okay, I love my husband. I love my kids. That does not mean there is some nasty shit that goes through my head about them sometimes. Because that is human nature.
It is.
Anybody who says, I only think loving thoughts about my loved ones all the time is lying.
Or they're just never at home.
But, and if they knew some of those, because most of the time they're reactionary thoughts, I don't really mean them.
Right.
And then it doesn't lessen any of my love for them. But I would be horrified if they knew some of the thoughts that went through my head.
Well, our dog threw up. This was a while ago on our bed, and so Liz had to wake me up to like get the sheets off to clean them, right?
Yeah.
And I was so mad because I was thinking she's waking me up, and she's like, "Well, the dog threw up. I need to clean the sheets." So I was like, "Fine." And everything I did after that was just with anger because I vacuumed. She dropped OxyClean. The powder, so I'm vacuuming angrily. I'm throwing the thing angrily. And so the next day, I'm like, I just want to let you know, I was mad, but it's because I was half asleep and I didn't want to be doing these things. You had nothing to do with it. You were actually making the situation better. So I get you can't, like if I would have gotten so mad at her, it just wouldn't have been fair.
Right. And you could have said some awful things.
I absolutely could have.
But
I kept them in.
But your attitude was still kind of awful.
It was, but not towards her.
It was better than saying hurtful things.
Correct.
That you can never take.
And I think some people can't. You know what? Maybe you can correct me on this. I feel some people can't control it.
I totally agree.
You do agree? Okay.
Oh yeah, they have impulse control.
Yes.
Yes, but that's not a personality trait. That is something you can work on.
Thank you. And that's why I thought you were going to correct me because yes, you can absolutely work.
It's a lot easier for some people than others. It is very, very, very easy for me. Just because of my personality, because I know words matter so much. I am very good even, and I also don't have much of a temper.
Yeah,
I don't. I get hurt very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get mad and bleh.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, very, 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 very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely. But that is just me. I understand some people have temper issues and control issues, and things slip out of their mouth that they don't mean. And, so harder for some than others, but it is, again, not a personality. It's just who I am. I say terrible things to people I love.
Yep.
It's work on it. Yeah, go get some anger management or something. Oh, yeah, I want to marry you. So I just joined Rotary.
Congratulations. Which one?
Suburban. It meets at the German American Society.
Oh, good friend of mine is in there. Gary Beller. Great guy.
Gary Bell, is he a financial planner?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
ma'am.
I knew him back in my old job.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Him and I.
I don't believe I've seen him there, although I've been there all of twice now. And there's like 200 people in the room. So
there are. Yep.
It's possible I missed him.
Great Rotary group. Great Rotary group.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really liking it. But so they printed out a plaque for me when I joined, not just for me. I think they do for everyone. And they talk about this all the time in Rotary, is before you talk, give it the 4-way test. And the 4-way test is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Which I think that is like the ideal, who's going to think those things before they say anything? No one.
After a couple drinks and a heated debate, it's hard to reel it in.
Yeah, and sometimes that can't, especially if there's a large group, maybe it's not going to be beneficial to everyone.
Right.
Maybe it's not going to build goodwill with this person who needs some hard truths. This is not the end all be all, but I love that. Just thinking of those things first. And I've heard it a different way, I think, is it fair? Is it necessary? And is it kind?
See, and that's what I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Too. Is it fair? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And I've also heard do I need to be the one saying this right now? And do I need to be the one saying this right now? So it's kind of am I the one who actually needs to say it? And is now the right time? I mean, there's a lot of different things you can, kind of
how you can say it. Right.
Right.
To me, it's just thinking before you speak.
Right.
Right. This is validating. Is it even worth saying? But it was a good reality as a young child that I did the 2-second rule, and then I was in grade school, middle school, whatever. But I started waiting 2 seconds before I would blurt stuff, because you can only imagine what I was like as a kid, because I've matured. Right. That's a pretty long shot. But when I started pausing, that's when I stopped being such a jerk, because I always wanted to be funny, and especially as you're learning and growing and all that, you're mean more than funny a lot.
Yeah.
And so I would pause, and I wouldn't necessarily go through those in my head, but I'm like, do I really need to say
right.
this? And that pause probably saved me a lot of friends.
The pause is such a big thing. I get triggered really easy, and usually the first thing that comes out of my mouth is some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not grumpy. It's worse than that.
Diabolical?
No, like this morning. I was honestly almost had my coat on to go to work. Had already kissed Todd goodbye. Was putting my coat on, top of the stairs. Hey, can I get you to make me a cup of coffee before you go? And immediately, if I would not have stopped and paused, it would have been like, fine. I mean, that's what would have come out.
Yep.
I paused, gave it a moment, and then said, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
The first thing that will come out of my mouth is, ugh. And it's terrible, because then, you know what's going to happen? Next time, he's not going to ask me to do it. He's going to do it on his own, and I'm going to get upset.
That's going to
created my own, and it's something that I've had to talk to him about as well, because there are times I would put a filler word in. So he'd ask me, hey, can you, this was a good example. It was before all of our money was together. I think it was before we were married. And so we were planning a family trip. And he's like, hey, if I get the resort, can you pay for the airfare? And honestly, what was going through my head is I need to look at my finances. I need to make sure I can cover this. Those were the things going through my head. But instead what came out was, I guess I could.
Oh.
And that was my filler space. Like, give me time to think about this. And he would get so mad. He's like, just give me a straight answer. And it was finally that I had to talk to him and said, I need to think before I react. And if I just don't say anything, that seems ruder
It's
to me.
worse. Yes.
And I was like, I'm putting a filler word in there when I say something like this. And what it means is, I'm not ready to react yet. I need to think it through. And he either heard waffling or he heard, what's the word I'm looking for here? It was either the waffling or it was passive aggressiveness.
There it is. Yeah.
That he heard. So once we got that out, or he thought that if I was pushing my reaction, it meant that my reaction was not authentic. When it's actually the opposite with me. The first thing that comes out of my mouth is usually not my authentic response. It's all emotion and trigger and yuck. It's when I have time to process it, that's when my true reaction comes out. And I can see that perception of if they have to really craft their answer, it's not real. When actually I think a lot of the times it can be the opposite.
I think it's almost always
the opposite. It's more real if I can think it through.
Right.
Okay, so now let's kind of switch the topic a little to oversharing.
Oh, okay.
Because we are trying to talk about, that line between sharing enough, not sharing, being authentic and transparent versus just kind of being a jerk. So oversharing is something that Brene Brown,
I knew she was going to show up,
calls floodlighting.
Ooh,
okay?
Because there's gaslighting made the dictionary.
This is
floodlighting. Okay, tell me more.
I'm going to read a little quote from her. Oversharing is not vulnerability. So I think that is, I'm off the quote here for a moment. Brene Brown's all about vulnerability, being who you are, letting people see who you are. And I think that's a lot of people think that if I tell everybody all the horrible things that happened to me, I'm being vulnerable and letting them see the true me. Okay?
Yeah.
Oversharing is not vulnerability. It's called floodlighting. A lot of the times we share too much information as a way to protect ourselves from vulnerability. And here's why. I'm scared to let you know, this is her talking, I'm scared to let you know that I just wrote this article and I'm under total fire for it and people are making fun of me and I'm feeling hurt. The same thing that I told someone in an intimate conversation. So she's saying that this happened. She told somebody who deserved to hear that about it, but now she's telling some random person. Okay? So what I do is floodlight you with it. This random person who's not deserved to hear this truth. I don't know you very well, or I'm in front of a big group, and it's a story I haven't processed enough to be sharing with other people. And you immediately respond, hands up, push me away. And I go, see, no one cares about me. No one gives a shit that I'm hurting. I knew it all along.
Wow.
It's how we protect ourselves from vulnerability. We engage in a behavior that confirms our fears. So oversharing is not vulnerability. It often results in disconnection, distrust, and disengagement. So there's that reason, and that's, like I talked about my family member who thinks that everybody is judging her, so finds a way to make everybody judge her. There's that. And then it also can be a manipulation tactic. And then it can also, and this is another, Brene Brown talks about this in a different section of her book, a way to try and hotwire a relationship.
Yeah.
We just met. I'm going to tell you all these intimate details, and now we're going to be best friends.
I think my sister-in-law's in the military. She's trying to date. She's getting to that point. Yeah. She's a little settled down, but she's trying to date. And I think that's her challenge on dates is, we don't have time. I'm going to knock this out. Let's go. And then,
and they're like,
right. And the first little negative is like, okay, this is done.
Yeah.
And I think that quote.
It's walls. It doesn't look like walls because we see walls more as stonewalling and I'm not going to share, but this is a wall too.
Yeah.
This is pushing people away.
Pushing away. Yep.
Even though it looks like.
I'm sharing everything with you and you chose to walk away.
Right. See, nobody really likes me. They don't want to hear my story.
Yeah.
They don't really want to know who I am.
That really puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
I've been wrestling with that because I don't know how to help her. You know what I mean? Like dating, I haven't had to in a while, number one. Right. But number two, it's changed a lot since I've been married for 12 years now. It's changed a lot. I want to help, but I don't know how.
Right. Give her the book.
Oh, good. That's better than the podcast. Yeah. Maybe I'll give her the book.
Give her the book. Just be like, oh, hey, I got this and I already read it. All right, girl.
Well, she'll know I'm lying. My friend recommended.
How about I got this book. I I don't want to read it.
That sounds like me.
Okay.
There's authentic.
There's authentic. So transparency and oversharing, not the same thing.
Correct.
Not the same thing. Now let's talk about authenticity versus just being a jerk.
This is who I am.
Yes.
You need to accept it or get the F out.
I hate that. So we already talked about this in the last episode. I'm always late. It's just who I am. Mm-hmm. No, it's rude. Mm-hmm. And it's disregarding the other person. It's saying I'm more important. Or it's I want a lot of attention by strolling my ass in here 20 minutes after the meeting started.
I gotta share this. I didn't share this in the last one. I know people that have adjusted time, like they got in leadership and they adjusted the time of the meeting to make it beneficial for them. Still late. Didn't matter.
Oh my goodness. So there is a difference between personality traits and just not working on yourself.
Yeah.
Or attempting to grow. Because there are some things, it's like, we had a whole episode about cursing.
We did.
I tend to curse. Part of that is it's just who I am, but another part of it is tact. If I go into a business, or if I'm with somebody, and I think I am naturally good at knowing how much of myself I can be, and I don't think that's not being authentic. I think that's smart. That's emotional intelligence. I can read a room, I can read the people around, and I take time to read the room. I don't blast into a new group and I'm just full on Angie. I sit there and I kind of read the room, figure out, can I tell this dirty joke? Can I say this bad word? And sometimes I can't, and that's okay. I can still be authentically me without letting out some of my more colorful aspects. And anyone who says, well, you're not being yourself, or you're shutting yourself down, or you're making yourself smaller for others, no. I am using emotional intelligence.
Yep. I'm respecting the room.
Yeah.
We use that, read the room a lot, especially with Isabel, my 9-year-old, as she is developing sarcasm and everything. You just need to read the room. And going back to the Swearing podcast, is it worth losing a friendship, a deal, a referral, whatever it is, because you wanted to bring your color in today?
Right.
And I think people get uncomfortable. Like, I'm very comfortable in public situations, in new groups. I'm a woo, so I just want to win everybody over. But I do it getting to know them, not showing you so much about me. You don't even need to ask about me, because I'm about to tell you how I really feel.
And I think that's a way of oversharing too.
Absolutely.
I'm going to blast you with the full on of all my personality right now. That is a way to push others away.
To be clear, my personality is just a lot. It's just the way I am. No, you've seen me in new settings with other people. I'm still boisterous. I am still loud. That I can't control. I mean, once again, yes, I can, but I don't really worry about it. But it's generally fun, enjoyable, part of the conversation, and that I've worked on as I've gotten older. But it plays into it. Yeah. Where I think some people try to be like that, and it's annoying. Or you just know that's not you, right? Like
it's an act,
it's like your friend that thinks a guy's cute and is just, you're like, that's not you. And to tell you the truth, he probably like you, not this.
Right. It's an act, yeah. So there's that, and now, how about, here's your favorite word, circumspection.
No, it's
not circumcision.
To be clear, that's not my favorite word on either side.
Circumspection and intelligence versus stonewalling and being closed off.
Okay.
So, I have an example of this. Another old boss story. So,
look how much she's done for you.
She really has.
So much you've learned.
Absolutely. So, she would always say that I was a completely unforgiving person. Oh, she said awful things to me all the time. And she'd be like, yeah, you just cut people out of your life and you don't forgive them and it scares everyone. And I was like, I know the difference between a good person making a mistake and a bad person who will continually do this to me until I cut them out of my life.
Yeah.
I forgive the people who make mistakes who are generally good people. These other people, it's just like, no, you're done. And she was the type that would just get walked on and walked on and walked on and walked on and taken advantage of and didn't get it.
Yep.
And so I think there is a difference there of that was circumspection and intelligence. I can read that this person is not authentic, is going to hurt me, is a bad, toxic person in my life. And it wasn't an unforgiving. I didn't hold a grudge. I didn't try and take them down. It was just like, you're out. I don't need you in my life. Versus this is my good friend who screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm going to forgive you. You're a good friend. You're good at heart. We all screw up. There is a difference there.
I have a friend, good person, screwed up, went through a rough patch. Actually, I think a few rough patches, and we didn't talk for a while. Like we had a big blow up, and we didn't talk for a while. Then a few text messages here and there, and one of the text messages was, "Hey, I think we should, rekindle this friendship, and I think there's a lot there, and we should go snowboard again." And my response was, I think a coffee would be a good start.
There you go.
Because I'm not ready to go blazing
right back
balls to the walls back. Right, because that's where everything went bad. Like, that's trauma.
Yeah.
But I'm more than happy because I understood. I mean, we grew up together, so I knew his family. I understood where his life was going. But that doesn't eliminate the feelings that you made me feel, the things that you said. But I know you were going through a hard time. I respect you as a friend, and I respect our friendship. But no, we're not just going to jump in the car and go. Again, we're going to meet first.
Knowing yourself at the beginning,
right? Yep.
Because it probably would have just blown up again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or it would have been so fake.
Right.
It would have been like you're trying to deny the true feelings. It's not worth it. Not worth it.
So that's being emotionally intelligent. Now, what about stonewalling? So stonewalling or undersharing. So with sharing, you can do it wrong on either side. Mm-hmm. You can floodlight and overshare, or you can stonewall and undershare. And they're both very dangerous to relationships. Because the key to sharing is to share your story with those who have earned the right to hear it. And so floodlighting means you're sharing your story with people who have not earned the right to hear it. Undersharing is somebody's earned that right. They've been in your life, they've shared things with you, and you're stonewalling, you're keeping things from them.
You had a friend like that, didn't you?
I did.
Long time.
Yep.
Long time.
Yep. And it was, you never let me see any of your struggles. You never let me see any of this. I've shared mine with you, and the relationship fell apart.
Yep.
And it was sad. So you have to know who to share with, which that can be tough. I've shared things with people that I regret. I was like, "Ooh, I thought you were somebody else." Or,
I thought this was going to go different.
Yeah, I thought our relationship was stronger than this. I mean, it's a learning process.
It is.
It's absolutely a learning process. And then knowing when you're not sharing as a defense mechanism or a punishment. So that's when you get into like the stonewalling in a marriage.
Yeah.
Or a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Closing down, I do that. When I get hurt, I close down, and then, okay, now I didn't tell them about my day. And I'm not doing it because I just don't feel like talking right now. It's a punishment. I don't want to be doing it, but it's a punishment as well as I'm going to close off, put my walls up because I'm hurt right now. And so you got to kind of know when there are times, obviously, when you just don't want to talk.
Right.
Especially in a marriage. I mean, you can't be connected all the time, even though us codependents wish.
Well, it's the same though. In the middle of a conversation, when everything's hunky dory, and then one little thing happens, and now all of a sudden it's just one word answers. I mean, that's and to me, if it's in that situation, there was something that affected the whole thing. Yeah, you're stonewalling, but it's for now. And one thing Liz is really good at, because it definitely happens more where I say something stupid, but she'll come back and say like, "That really hurt me." And most of the time I'm like, "Yeah, I figured." Like, I read that part, I get that. But then we can talk about it a little more. I think long-term hurtful relationships, they don't come back.
No.
And if anything, the stonewall continues. And then 3 weeks later, it's well, you remember what you said at dinner?
Yep.
It's like, actually, I don't.
Yep.
I don't remember.
Absolutely. And this is something Todd and I are trying to get better at, too, because we get triggered.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, we need to be able to tell each other, I'm upset. I do not want to talk about it right now because I'm going to say things I don't mean. Can we please take some space apart, and then I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk.
Yep.
And that makes me feel better because, I know this is going to be resolved at some point. I can let go.
Right.
Because if that is not said, where my mind goes, whoop, we're going back to divorce.
This is over.
I'm doing the She-Hulk thing where I toss myself out the window and die.
We cannot get on the topic of that, but isn't that a great series?
Yeah.
I really had
reservations. I watched that on the treadmill in the morning, which means I have watched 2 episodes.
It is good. Oh, it's
How many
good.
times have I been on the treadmill? don't feel like talking right now.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm trying to process XYZ. Hey, I'm just tired and want to relax. Being able to say that. And that's not just to a spouse. That can be to a friend. That can be to a child. That can be to a coworker.
Or boss. I think if your boss comes to you, or if your partner, your business partner comes to you, and it's something that you're not ready to emotionally handle right now, like I just had a horrible day.
Right. This is not going to go well.
Yeah, like let's not talk about this right now. Although you ever been in the situation where you say that and they're like, "You're right," and then they just keep talking about it. You're like, "No, you didn't get it."
Or they insist, "No, we do need to talk about this."
Ooh, we're on your time now, aren't we?
And then knowing when you'll say something that will hurt someone unnecessarily. So that's another. Take the pause, and maybe in the pause you find a different way to phrase it, or maybe in the pause you realize it doesn't need to be said at all.
Yeah.
Because
in my marriage, I take the pause, and most of the time it just doesn't
need to be said. Yeah. And you don't need to fight every fight. That's
Correct.
been something that's been very hard for me to learn, because in my mind it's like, if we don't discuss every single thing, it's going to keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing, no, there are some things that we don't need to discuss. That you snapped at me because I asked you to. This actually happened this morning. I asked Todd to help me with my bracelet because I couldn't get it on. And so as he was fumbling with it, and he was having a tough time with it too, I was like, if I just held this up, he would be able to clasp it, right?
Yeah.
So I reached in, I'm like, he's like, get out of here.
Oh, totally get that. Totally get. Or if I'm struggling with something, then Liz takes it. I'm just like, well, you're not going to do any better.
Yeah. Which I was actually very proud of myself, because this was a second incident of a similar situation 2 days ago. I couldn't get into my online banking on my phone.
Okay.
And number one, I did not ask for help, so I would like to preface that. I'm sitting there, and he was like, "Can you get into your online banking?" And I was like, "No, I still can't." And I was like, "Here's what's happening." He's like, "Let me look at it." Okay? He said, "Let me look at it." So as he was looking at it, he's like, "Well, these two accounts seem to be okay." And I realized in that moment that I didn't really need the things that I couldn't get into. Okay?
Oh.
So I was like, "Oh, well, let me look at that." And he blew up. "Don't ask for my help if you..." And I was like, "I didn't ask for your help."
Oh, yes.
And so the bracelet thing was like the follow-up to that.
Could you ask for help?
This time I had actually asked for help. I knew that I could help more, but he snapped at me. I didn't react. I took my hand back.
Good for you.
And he fumbled with it for a while longer and got it hooked incorrectly, I would like to say. But it's hooked. And I kissed him and said, "Thank you for your help."
Boom! Look at this.
I learned.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's always emotion, though. Sometimes the stars just don't align. But they did this morning.
They did this morning.
Good for you.
And I think the big takeaway is here, I did not need to talk to him about what happened with the phone. Because part of me wanted to, let's talk about this. And I wanted to say everything I just said now, which was, but I didn't ask for your help.
Right. Yep.
Here's how I saw it. But it's like, that's stupid. We don't need to have a State of the Union about one snap,
Well, and have you ever gone down that rabbit hole, and then at the end you're both just looking at it, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, great, I'm glad we just did this whole marathon of running and nothing matters and it's fine.
Right. Yeah. So because this is supposed to be kind of a business podcast, let's touch on some business things here before we wrap up. Still on the same topic. So you need to know when to tell your team enough and when you're telling them too much. So there's that line of oversharing versus transparency. So again, can we go back to my old boss?
Of course.
She was way on the wrong side of oversharing and crossing bad lines.
Okay.
And so number one, we always knew all of her personal struggles.
Not great.
No. And number two, she gossiped about others on the team.
Oh.
And she tried to infringe on personal lives. I mean, she would come to, "What are you guys doing this weekend? Can I be invited?"
Oh.
There was even a point where, so I joined a bunco group. You know what bunco
I do.
Yeah. And granted, I'm at that point, 26-year-old employee. Shut up. It's not the point. The point is I'm a 26-year-old employee.
Yeah.
I told her I joined this bunco group. And like 2 months later, she's like, "I've been mad at you for 2 months. You knew how much I wanted to get into a bunco group and you didn't invite me."
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, you're my boss.
And go get in your own bunko group.
But she would ask, what are you guys doing this weekend? Where are you going? Can I go?
Yeah. Oh, see, the inviting. Like, because I ask people all the time, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah. No,
but then
the
infringing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was, that's a blatant example
Yep.
of crossing the line. But talking too much about finances, that's crossing the line. You want to know, hey, we can't really afford this big bonus right now that you were expecting. That's fine.
Right.
That's transparent. But hey guys, we're in the red and we gotta close our doors next week if we don't get this big sale in or something like that.
Okay, no, you joke-ish, but I've been in sales environment where they're okay, if we don't hit this number, then we're this far back for the year goals.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's fear-mongering.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna go sell out to desperation today.
Right.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Yeah. It's creating fear in your team. You should be creating security.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you're not gonna go through some scary stuff, but most of the time the team doesn't need to hear the scary stuff.
Right.
Sometimes they need to hear some hard truths, but not the scare tactics. So before you decide how much you want to share with your team, think, will this help the team or will this hinder the team?
Well, I was even thinking the Rotary thing.
Yeah, that too. And again, depending on how big your company is.
Right. Yep.
You got to kind of do the majority. Hurt one.
You're going to. Yep.
Yeah, which is another thing that I hate as a leader, and another thing I learned. If one person has done something wrong, don't call the whole team in and have a lecture about don't do this, because the rest of the team is going to think they did something wrong when they did not. And more than likely, the person who did something wrong is the one person who's going to say, that doesn't apply to me.
Yep, I have received emails saying, we're about to talk about something in the meeting, it doesn't apply to you. And I'm like, do I have to go? Right, like, put your big boy pants on and go talk to them. Be transparent about the situation.
It's such a passive-aggressive way to get
it is.
So there we have it. Authenticity and transparency versus oversharing and just being a jerk. Could be a fine line. Anything else to add?
No, this was a good one. I always enjoy when it's this is what you want to be, this is what you might be.
And sometimes the line is very
right in the middle.
Right in the middle. So thank you for watching and or listening and or watching, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I guess you could watch without listening. It wouldn't be very fun, but
I bet we look weird.
So thank you for listening to the Engaging Life podcast. We very much appreciate it.